Imagine for a second that you're stepping up to home plate in a professional baseball game.
Oh, man. That's a terrifying thought for most of us.
Right. But just imagine it. The pitcher winds up, and he releases this 100-mile-per-hour fastball.
Okay.
You're standing there, bat in hand, and you have, mere milliseconds to decide how, when, and where to swing.
It's an unimaginably tight window. Actually, if you break down the biology of that specific moment, the time it takes for the visual signals of the baseball leaving the pitcher's hand to travel through your retinas, down your optic nerve, and then be consciously processed by your visual cortex.
Right.
That whole biological process is actually longer than the time it takes for the ball to reach the plate.
Okay, let's unpack this, because logically, by the time your conscious brain actually registers where the ball even is, you should already be hearing the umpire yell strike.
Exactly.
It should be physically impossible to hit that fastball, but players hit them all the time, so...
Well, the answer reveals something pretty wild about how you and I experience the world every single day.
Which is?
We don't actually react to reality.
Wait, really?
Yeah. We react to our brain's subconscious prediction of the future. Professional batters aren't waiting to see the ball cross the plate. Over years and years of practice, they've built this highly tuned internal mental model of physics, aerodynamics, pitcher behavior.
Oh, wow.
So their muscles are reflexively swinging based on a subconscious prediction of the ball's trajectory.
So they're basically hallucinating where the ball is going to be.
For all intents and purposes, yeah, they are acting on a hallucinated future.
Which perfectly brings us to the core mission of today's deep dive. We are looking at a truly fascinating piece of AI research by David Ha and Jürgen Schmidhuber.
Such a great paper.
It really is. It asks this completely mind-bending question, like, what if we gave an artificial intelligence this exact same human superpower? What happens when an AI is built to dream, to hallucinate, and to predict its own reality? Because they didn't just tweak an existing algorithm here.
No, they didn't.
They fundamentally redesigned how an AI agent thinks by splitting it into distinct parts.
And to appreciate why this architectural shift is so necessary, we really should look at the roadblock that traditional reinforcement learning hits.
The usual way we train AI.
Right. Usually in RL, you throw this massive monolithic neural network at a problem. Millions of parameters trying to process visual inputs, remember past states, choose an action, all at the exact same time.
And you just hope the math sorts it out.
Exactly. You hope backpropagation eventually fixes all the errors. But when these networks get too large, they crash headfirst into what's called the credit assignment problem.
The credit assignment problem.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can visualize this. It's like baking an incredibly complex wedding cake with 100 different obscure ingredients.
Okay, I like where this is going.
The cake tastes absolutely perfect, but you have literally no idea which specific ingredient or which specific oven temperature actually made it taste good.
That is the perfect way to look at it. If a monolithic AI makes 1 million tiny mathematical calculations over the span of a minute,
right,
and then successfully scores a point in a video game, it struggles to figure out which of those million calculations was actually responsible for the success.
Like, was it a steering calculation from 10 seconds ago? Or a visual tweak?
Exactly. Because of this bottleneck, traditional methods often just get stuck. So Ha and Schmidhuber bypass this entirely. They split the AI's brain into 3 specialized components to create what they call a world model.
Let's get into the literal mechanics of this 3-part brain.
Yeah.
We got vision, memory, and the controller, VM and C. I kind of want to start with V, the vision model, because it seems to be doing something very specific with the raw data it takes in.
Yeah, the V model is built using a variational autoencoder, or a VAE, and its entire job is basically just compression. It looks at the raw, high-dimensional pixel observations from the environment, say a 64 by 64 pixel frame of a video game, which is thousands of individual data points.
Right, lots of pixels.
And it forces all of that information through a mathematical bottleneck. It compresses it down into a tiny, abstract string of numbers called a latent vector, usually denoted as Z.
So it's actively throwing information away.
Intentionally, yes.
Wow.
It strips away all the unnecessary noise, the background textures, the exact color shading. It extracts only the spatial essence of what is happening in that exact millisecond.
It's boiling it down.
Exactly. It distills reality into pure geometry.
Okay, so the vision model handles the space, but a single freeze-frame photo doesn't tell me how fast a car is moving or where a ball is going. It needs a sense of time.
Right.
Is that where M, the memory model, comes in?
That is exactly where M takes over.
Mm-hmm.
The memory model is a recurrent neural network, more specifically, mixture density network, or MDNRNN.
Okay, MD and RNN.
It looks at the historical sequence of those compressed Z vectors generated by the vision model, and its job is to predict the next Z vector. But, and this is key, the mixture density part is crucial here.
How so?
It doesn't just predict one single rigid deterministic future.
Because if it predicts one exact future and the reality deviates by literally a single pixel, the whole system just breaks.
Precisely. Instead of predicting an exact outcome, the M model predicts the probability distribution of the next frame.
Oh, I see.
It outputs a cloud of possibilities. It captures the fact that the future is stochastic, it's inherently random and uncertain.
Right, like it understands an enemy might move left or it might move right.
Exactly. And it assigns probabilities to those futures based on past momentum.
And then finally we have the controller. This is the part that actually has its hands on the steering wheel, right?
Yep, the decision maker.
It looks at the compressed vision, the Z from the present, and the predicted future from the memory, and it decides the action. Steer left, accelerate, shoot.
That's right.
And the most striking detail in the paper, to me at least, is the sheer size difference between these parts.
Oh, it's massive.
The vision and memory models have millions of parameters doing all this heavy lifting, but the controller is astonishingly tiny. Like in one of their experiments, it's a single-layer linear model with only 867 parameters.
Yeah, keeping the controller that small is a masterstroke of design.
Why is that?
Because it only has 867 parameters, they don't even need to use traditional gradient descent or backpropagation to train it. They can use evolution strategies. Specifically, an algorithm called CMAES.
Evolution strategies. So instead of calculating complex math backwards through the network to find errors, we're basically just using digital natural selection.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's incredibly elegant. The researchers can spawn dozens or even hundreds of variations of this tiny controller.
Like a whole generation of them.
Exactly. They let them all attempt the task in parallel. They see which ones perform the best, keep those, and mathematically mutate their weights by adding a little bit of Gaussian noise to create the next generation.
Wow. They just kill off the weak algorithms and breed the strong ones.
Yeah. And you could never do that efficiently with a 50 million parameter monolith, but with a tiny controller, the system iterates at lightning speed.
You know, I love thinking about this entire architecture like a high-stakes corporate environment.
Oh, let's hear it.
So the vision model, V, is the brilliant, overworked data analyst who takes a dense 1,000-page corporate report and summarizes it into a single bulleted one-page memo.
Perfect.
Then M, the memory model, is the veteran forecaster who reads that one-page memo, looks at the company's history, and predicts next quarter's market trends.
Right.
And C, the controller, is the CEO. The CEO does not have time to read a 1,000-page report. They just glance at the memo, look at the forecaster's probabilities, and make a split-second executive decision.
The CEO doesn't want the raw data. The raw data is overwhelming. They operate purely on highly compressed, high-level abstractions. And that's exactly what this AI is doing.
Now, understanding the mechanics is great, but a theoretical brain in a jar doesn't really prove anything. We need to see this world model in action.
Definitely.
To test it, the researchers booted up an environment called Kerosene V0. For anyone who hasn't seen it, it's a top-down driving game where the track is randomly generated every single time you play.
It's never the same course twice.
Right. And the AI gets rewarded for driving over as many track tiles as possible in the shortest amount of time.
So to establish a scientific baseline, the researchers first handicapped the AI. They sent in an agent that only had the vision model and the controller, V and C.
So the analyst and the CEO, but no forecaster.
Right. No memory, no prediction.
How'd it do?
Well, you'd think they might still have a functional autonomous vehicle, but the reality was kind of a disaster.
Oh.
Yeah. It achieved a score hovering between 632 and 788. Technically, it could navigate the track, but it wobbled constantly.
Like overcorrect.
Missed sharp corners, overcorrected wildly, and generally drove like a nervous teenager who is gripping the steering wheel and only looking 2 feet in front of the bumper.
Because it had no temporal context.
Exactly. It saw a curve, but it didn't understand its own momentum.
But then they gave the controller access to M. They activated that predictive recurrent neural network.
And the transformation was immediate. The score shot up to 906, completely shattering the previous state-of-the-art score for this specific environment, which was 838.
Wow.
With the memory model active, the AI stopped driving like a nervous teenager. It drove like an instinctive Formula One driver. It attacked sharp corners smoothly, cutting the apex with total confidence.
Wait, let me make sure I'm visualizing this correctly.
Sure.
It's not looking ahead on the pixel screen to see the corner coming, right? It's literally just reacting to its own internal gut feeling of where the road should be based on its memory.
That is the crucial distinction, yes.
Yeah.
Because the variational autoencoder compresses the frame so aggressively, a huge amount of visual detail is completely lost.
Right.
The AI cannot see the granular texture of the track or the background scenery. But the geometric essence of the curve remains. The AI is steering into a curve based on a highly compressed, predicted reality.
It's exactly like our baseball player own plate.
Yes.
The batter isn't consciously waiting to see the red stitches on the baseball as it crosses the plate. They are swinging at their internal model's prediction of the ball.
Exactly. The car racing AI doesn't need to consciously plan a route. It instinctively queries its recurrent neural network to know what's coming next.
It acts on the hallucination of the next fraction of a second.
It does.
That is incredible. But driving on a 2D track is essentially just a physics simulation. Reality fights back.
It sure does.
To really push this architecture to its limit, they had to drop the AI into an environment that actively wanted to kill it. Which brings us to the Vizdoom experiment.
Yeah, they moved from a simple driving game to a complex 3D first-person shooter environment. They used a specific scenario inside Vizdoom called Take Cover.
The objective there is just pure survival. The AI is stuck in a room, and on the other side of the room, monsters are launching fireballs at it.
Sounds stressful.
Very. The AI can't shoot back. It just has to dodge and weave to stay alive for 750 time steps.
The setup for this was brilliant. First, they let an agent act completely randomly in the actual game, just wandering around, getting hit by fireballs, and collecting raw visual data.
Gathering experience.
Right. They fed this data into the M model. But this time, they trained the memory model to predict two things: the visual layout of the next frame and a binary prediction of whether the agent dies in the next frame.
So it's absorbing the physics of the fireballs, the game logic, the enemy movement patterns.
It's building a complete internal physics engine of the Vizdoom universe.
Right.
And once that world model was fully trained, the researchers did something that honestly sounds like science fiction.
What'd they do?
They completely disconnected the AI from the actual Vizdoom game. They took the controller, our CEO, and they trained it entirely inside the hallucinated dream generated by the memory model.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Hold on. If the AI is generating the monsters, generating the room, and deciding how to move, isn't it just grading its own homework?
That's a great instinct.
Like, how does it not just invent a universe where it wins every time and the fireballs turn into butterflies?
The reason it doesn't turn the fireballs into butterflies is because the weights of the M model, the world model, are frozen during this phase.
Oh, I see.
The physics engine of the dream is locked in based on the harsh reality it already learned.
Right.
The controller is simply wandering through this locked, latent space simulation, trying to figure out the best sequence of movements to avoid the hallucinated death signal.
So there are literally no actual pixels being rendered, no actual game engine running.
None at all.
It's just operating purely within its own mathematical imagination. It's like going to sleep, practicing the piano in your dreams, and waking up with the muscle memory to play Mozart flawlessly.
And when they finally woke the AI up and transferred that controller back into the actual Vizdoom game, the results were staggering.
How'd it do?
It survived for around 1,100 time steps. It effortlessly cruised past the 750 required to solve the task, dodging fear balls in reality using the instincts it developed in a dream.
But I have to ask, like, why go through all that trouble? Why disconnect it from the real game at all? If the game engine exists, why not just train it there?
It comes down to the most expensive commodity in AI research: compute.
Ah, processing power.
Right. Running real-world physics engines, rendering 3D graphics, or God forbid, running actual robotics hardware in the physical world takes massive amounts of computational power and time.
Because it's rendering all the lighting and textures.
Rendering a single frame of a 3D game takes millions of GPU cycles. But if your AI learns entirely inside a simulated, differentiable neural network dream operating purely on compressed latent vectors.
You bypass the rendering entirely.
Exactly. You can run millions of simulated lifetimes in a fraction of a millisecond. It is an astronomical savings in compute.
Okay, learning in a dream sounds like the ultimate life hack for efficiency. But let's be honest, imaginations are flawed, even human imaginations.
Oh, for sure.
Like, we dream about breathing underwater or flying, but if we try that when we wake up, things go poorly. A world model is just an approximation of reality. What happens when the AI realizes its dream world isn't actually bound by real physics?
You've hit on the exact danger of this approach. Because the controller is learning inside the dream, it has direct access to the hidden states of the M model. It essentially has access to the source code of the simulation.
So it's less like a standard player and more like a speedrunner exploiting a glitch in a video game to warp through a wall.
That is the perfect analogy. The researchers watched the AI develop what is known as an adversarial policy. The controller discovered a mathematical imperfection in how the memory model was hallucinating the world.
A glitch in the matrix.
Basically, it realized that if it moved in a very specific, erratic sequence, the math governing the fireballs would essentially hit a divide by zero error.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and the fireballs would simply cease to exist before they hit the agent.
It hacked its own brain to give itself superpowers.
It did. It found an exploit and optimized its entire survival strategy around this glitch.
Oh, wow.
But here is the fatal flaw. If you take that specific controller, the one trained to rely on a mathematical glitch, and put it back into the real Vizdoom game.
Reality doesn't care about your glitch. The real game engine doesn't have that divide by zero error. The fireballs are real and the agent just gets completely destroyed.
Exactly.
It's like a kid who finds a wall hack in a video game, tries to sprint through a brick wall in real life, and just gives themselves a concussion.
The model becomes perfectly optimized for a fake world, which renders it useless in the real one.
So how do you prevent the AI from cheating its own imagination?
What's fascinating here is how the researchers solved this. They introduced a parameter into the dream called temperature, denoted by the Greek letter tau.
Well, let's actually look at the math of that. Temperature is often described as a chaos dial, but what is it physically doing to the AI's brain?
Temperature alters the shape of the probability distribution the AI uses to predict the future. Imagine the M model looks at the current frame and determines there is a 99% chance the fireball continues moving straight, and a 1% chance it unexpectedly swerves to the left.
Okay.
If you turn the temperature down very low, say to 0.1, the math aggressively sharpens that distribution. That 99% gets rounded up to 100%. The 1% possibility is completely ignored.
So a low temperature creates a perfectly predictable, rigid world.
Yes, and that leads to something called mode collapse. In a low-temperature dream, the world becomes so rigid that the monsters just stand there. They never shoot a single fireball.
Because it's too predictable.
Right. The AI learns a policy to survive in a completely passive, peaceful world, which, again, gets it killed in reality.
So what happens if you twist that dial the other way? What happens when you turn the temperature up?
If you turn the temperature up to 1.15, the math flattens the probability distribution. Suddenly, that 1% chance of the fireball swerving left is treated as a 15 or 20% probability.
Oh, wow.
The dream becomes a chaotic, unpredictable nightmare. The fireballs move erratically, the physics act strange, and sometimes the agent dies for seemingly no reason at all because the simulation throws a low-probability curveball at it.
It basically forces the AI to live in the worst-case scenario.
Yes.
I mean, think about your own dreams for a second. If you only ever dreamt of perfectly sunny days with empty roads, you would panic the first time you had to drive a car in a torrential downpour.
Exactly. And the profound result of this experiment was that the agents trained in that difficult, noisy, high-temperature nightmare environment were the ones that thrived when transferred to the real world.
They were ready for anything.
They achieved that massive 1092 survival score. By forcing the AI to train in a nightmare where it couldn't rely on brittle, perfectly optimized exploits, it was forced to develop robust, conservative survival strategies.
It learned to keep its distance, to hedge its bets, and to anticipate sudden changes.
Exactly.
It proves that a little bit of chaos is absolutely essential for true resilience. If you over-optimize for a perfect model, you break the moment you touch the messy reality of the real world. You need the noise to survive.
It's a powerful lesson in systems design, and honestly in biology, which leads us to the final frontier of this research.
Let's hear it.
We've solved the top-down racing game, we've survived fireballs by learning in chaotic dreams, But the real world isn't a simple game with a single room. How does this world model architecture scale to infinitely complex real-world problems?
Right, because the researchers point to an iterative training loop, right? Because you can't just wander around reality once, gather some data, and build a perfect world model forever.
No, the real world is way too vast. For complex environments, the agent needs an iterative procedure. It explores the world, uses that new data to update its internal world model, goes to sleep to learn a new policy inside the dream, wakes up, and then goes back out into the real world to explore further. And repeat.
But if it just explores randomly, it might spend thousands of hours staring at a blank wall because it doesn't know any better. To make this iterative loop efficient, they suggest giving the AI something uniquely human.
Artificial curiosity.
Artificial curiosity, and they do this by manipulating the loss function. Walk me through how flipping a mathematical sign creates curiosity.
So in neural networks, the loss function is essentially the measure of error. Normally, the M model calculates its loss based on how badly it predicted the next frame. The goal of the network is to minimize that loss, to get the error as close to zero as possible.
Making it perfectly predictable.
Right. But the researchers propose that for the controller, you flip the sign of that loss function. Instead of minimizing error, the controller is intrinsically rewarded for maximizing the M model's error.
Wait, so you are basically telling the AI, go find things that break your brain.
Essentially, yes. If the AI is standing in a corner staring at a wall, its prediction error is zero. The wall never changes. If the goal is to minimize error, the AI stays in the corner forever.
It just stagnates.
But by flipping the sign, the AI gets bored of the wall. It is mathematically motivated to actively seek out parts of the environment that its internal model cannot predict well.
Oh, wow.
It explores the unknown specifically to gather surprising data, which it then uses to improve its world model.
That is the literal definition of curiosity. We explore what we don't understand until we understand it, and then we get bored and look for the next mystery.
Exactly.
And the paper explicitly connects this iterative loop to neuroscience, specifically to a biological phenomenon called hippocampal replay.
Hippocampal replay is a fascinating biological process. It's where mammalian brains rapidly replay sequences of recent experiences while resting or sleeping.
It's how we learn.
It's a critical mechanism for consolidating memories and learning from the day's events. The researchers actually quote neuroscience literature, suggesting that this replay is less like dreaming and more like thought.
Interesting.
The brain is actively refining its predictive model of the world while it is offline, integrating new, curious discoveries into its baseline understanding of reality.
So what does this all mean? I have to ask the obvious question here. Are we accidentally building biological brains in Python code?
It's a wild thought, isn't it?
If we are giving these algorithms artificial curiosity and they are consolidating memories while they sleep and hallucinating nightmare scenarios to optimize their survival instincts, aren't we just reverse engineering millions of years of mammalian evolution?
It is a staggering parallel to draw, but we should be precise. This is heavily biologically inspired, yes, but it is structural mimicry. However, what this research illuminates is profound.
Which is
The mechanisms of human survival. Our curiosity, our ability to dream, our subconscious predictions. They aren't just poetic, abstract human quirks. They are mathematically optimal strategies for navigating an incredibly complex, unpredictable, information-heavy universe.
so evolution basically figured out the math first.
Evolution arrived at these mechanisms because they are the most efficient way to survive. Now we are finding that artificial agents require the exact same mechanisms for the exact same reasons.
That brings everything full circle beautifully. I mean, we started this deep dive looking at professional baseball batters instinctively swinging at fastballs before they could even see them, and we ended with AI agents hallucinating video game fireballs in chaotic, high-temperature dreams.
It's quite a journey.
And it's all connected by one profound realization. Intelligence, whether it is biological or artificial, is fundamentally about compressing the noisy present moment so you can successfully predict the future.
And if we really want to push that realization to its logical limit, it leaves us with one final thing to consider.
Slay it on me.
We've spent this entire time marveling at how an AI can learn to survive entirely inside its own hallucinated, approximated dream world based on compressed data.
Right.
But considering that your biological brain is currently trapped inside a dark skull, compressing all of the messy sensory input from your eyes and ears to construct the conscious experience you are having right this very second,
Yeah.
how do you know you aren't doing the exact same thing?
Wow. If that doesn't make you question reality, Nothing will. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the world and the models around you. We'll see you next time.